Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Buffalo Roundup, your podcast home for all things VHS athletics, made by the Buffalo, for the Buffalo. Drew Schultry and Cody Hills with you here as always. Cody, can't believe that we've kind of come to the end of the fall sports season. Last regular season contest of the year for fall sports is this Friday night, tomorrow. If you're watching this on Thursday, the day we release VHS football senior night, we'll talk about that obviously, but kind of shocking though to already be at the end here.
Yeah, no tricks, all treats in this episode. But yeah, it's crazy. I think we talked about it a couple weeks ago. It's crazy to think that how fast this fall sports season went. We're already done with the first quarter of the academic year. And before we know it, basketball season, soccer, winter sport, already had some preseason soccer.
Preseason soccer this week, so we are already in it.
Into it. Yeah, it's exciting times.
Yeah, so we'll get into, well, actually, we've got a special treat for you this week. As Cody mentioned, we've got want to be very clear, our Buffalo Roundup Fall Athletes of the Year. We'll get to that in the second segment of the show today. But we have some stuff to recap first. So obviously, VHS football we talked about last week, coming off the loss against Cocoa. You haven't missed anything since then. They had a bye week this past week, but now going up against Mount Dora in the final regular season game of the year, senior night, Friday night. Cody, what are the Buffalo in for with the Hurricanes coming to town?
Well, you got to be up for a challenge, right? Because if you look at the records, it's a little bit deceiving. Mount Dora coming in at 2-7, but they've played a ridiculously tough strength of schedule. Played a couple Orlando powerhouses, Boone out of the Orlando area, Bishop Moore played a really good East Ridge team out of Claremont. They're coming off a really good win, though, beating Eustis. So that 2-7 mark, a little bit deceiving, I think. Look, as it's been the last couple of years under Coach Hutch there in Mount Dora, you're going to get a really physical football team, a team that's going to want to run the football. You have to stop that because that's one thing that they're going to want to do is establish that ground game. I think for VHS, though, it sort of plays into how they want to play, Drew, because, look, they want to get back to being the physical football team. 2 weeks ago against Cocoa did not go how they wanted it to, losing that game 27-6. Could not run the football in that one, couldn't stop the run in that one. So I think getting back to the MO of being the more physical team on the gridiron on Friday night, it's going to be a big deal to VHS. So I think it sort of plays into what Mount Dora wants to do as well. It should be a really good matchup there. But yeah, VHS coming off this bye, it came at a really good time. I think just in terms of having that reset button, if you will, getting healthy, some rest and recovery. This team has went at it for essentially 10 straight weeks when you factor in 10 weeks of games, when you factor in that kickoff classic. So getting the bye week, finish up here Friday night against Mount Dora for the senior night. They'll get another bye week with a new built-in off week between the end of the regular season and the postseason, and hopefully go into that playoff matchup, that first round, fresh and ready to go. Yeah,
and that is definitely a battle-tested Mount Dora team coming in. I joked last week that if you just drew a diagonal line through, Orange and Lake counties, and you just took the northwest half of that and just picked 10 of the 25 best teams in that area, Lake and Seminole and Orange counties, that Mount Dora is basically what they did for their schedule. I mean, it was brutal. I mean, some of the best teams that you could pluck from that area, that's who they went up against this year.
Yeah, and the record and the results not where they wanted it to be, but if you watch the film on those games, I mean, they were a competitive football team in a lot of those games. Maybe didn't have the athletes that matched up, say, against a Boone or a Bishop Moore, the aforementioned squads that I brought up, but I mean, they find a way to get you to play their brand of football and sort of pull you into a physical game, and you have to be ready for it. I think the Buffalo will. I think they're wanting to get that taste out of their mouth of that Cocoa loss and sort of wanting to get back to their brand of football as well, get back to the basics. Hopefully they're able to do that. I think they will. But this is a really good regular season test to end the season and get them ready for the postseason.
Yeah, absolutely. Much more in the line of Tavares and South Lake, some of those tougher games that they played earlier in the first half of the year. So ready to get them going into the postseason. And, of course, we'll recap Friday night's game for you next week, as well as look ahead to the playoffs based on what we know at that point. So a couple other quick hits from around the fall sports scene. A lot of teams in playoffs right now. Volleyball, unfortunately, their season is done. They went on the road to Lake Highland Prep. Of course, a tough matchup. There in the regional semifinal, matching the furthest that the team has ever gone in the postseason. Took a 3-1 loss in that one, but taking a set from that Highlanders team, extremely impressive. I think that based on what they did and the opponent, it might be the best match they played all season.
Yeah, it is, and the result's not where they wanted it, right? We've talked all year about how Michelle Mormon's not really one for the silver linings or the moral victories. They obviously wanted to come out of that with a victory, even against the mountain of a task, the uphill battle that was Lake Highland Prep being a nationally ranked squad. They still felt like they had themselves a chance, and you won that first set. probably feeling pretty good about themselves too after that first set, but just couldn't quite keep it up. To me, it was sort of a microcosm of the season, right? I mean, it felt like at times they could play with anybody in the state. At times, when they are healthy, when they have the full unit together, that team was as good as some of the powerhouses in this state. Now, again, not one for silver linings. It just wasn't good enough, right? They were not able to consistently put 3 victorious sets together against any of the top opponents that they played throughout the season, whether it was Lake Highland Prep, Montverde, and West Orange during that ridiculously tough stretch during the season. They're able to do it a couple times, a 2-set victory over Lake Mineola earlier in the year. There were good wins throughout this season, Drew, but to me, it was sort of just the storyline of the season that I was hoping they would buck the trend in the playoffs, was that they would finally put, whether it needed to be 3, 4, or 5 sets, they would put it together and knock off a team. You know, I feel like they beat who they were supposed to beat and maybe lost to who they were supposed to lose to. I was hoping that they would buck that trend and upset someone or pick up a victory that maybe they shouldn't have, or at least on paper. Just couldn't do it. But look, I think you look at the pieces that'll be coming back next year. Yes, they're going to lose some big-time players, Viviana Two-Set Martinez being one of them, one of the senior captains on this team. But I feel like what's left and the job that Michelle Mormon, this is just was this her first full season maybe with this team, or second, since she's taken over?
Second full season with the team, start to finish. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, now you're starting to get into that third year, which all coaches love that third year, right? That's sort of that full cyclical motion that they look for, that cycle of, okay, third year, it's my culture, it's my DNA. I think it's really strong, those two things with this program. So hopefully going forward, they build off this. But yeah, just a frustrating end. I don't want to say it's a season that got away, because there was a lot of good pieces in place for this team. They accomplished a lot of good things. There were a lot of good moments, but I think a really frustrating end for Michelle Mormon's bunch.
Yeah. Swimming is at the regional meet as we speak. We do not have updates for you as of yet on that. We'll have more next week's episode, but plenty of swimmers got to go. Diver as well. Sebastian Price, we mentioned last week, qualifying for the regionals. So he'll be doing his diving there. Hopefully he can advance to state. That would be pretty cool to see. But we had a handful of district champions, a handful of district runner-ups. I believe the final total between boys and girls was 29.
27 qualifiers.
27 qualifiers for the regional meet. So plenty of them out there. We'll have to see how many make it through to states, but not unreasonable to think that it could be as many as maybe a dozen.
Yeah, hopefully. And we heard on last week's episode how proud Jackie Mitchell was of that program, right? Sweeping back-to-back the district titles once again this year. That's a huge, I think, momentous pedestal for that program. And we heard the excitement in her voice and how pumped she was. And at our recording last week, wasn't sure how many would get to go, because you're waiting on the other district results. I think 27 was the end number there. It's a huge showing for the program just based on points alone, and the participation will hopefully get a good team score out of it. But yeah, you start looking at the heavy hitters. You look at the Aaron Nicoxes, the Lara Braganzas, hopefully Sebastian Price as well on the diving side, as you mentioned, partner. I think there's a lot to be excited about, but to me, hopefully Lara Braganza can get into that, win a regional title, and be a favorite for states. It'd be pretty cool to get the first one down.
Yeah. And next up, cross country. They ran the pre-state meet in Tallahassee this past weekend. It's always a good tune-up to be up there where you're going to run that state meet, via just trying to get some runners to that state meet again this year.
Yeah, I think the team finishes weren't where maybe head coach JP Perbola wanted them to be, but some good individual runs, particularly that number one who's been there all year is David Perbola, 16:53.9, so just about 16:53 there on the chart. That is the fastest that any VHS runner has ever ran in program history at that state tournament or state meet site. So I think that bodes well. That was about, 5 to 6 seconds better than the previous best mark, which was Nate Burton, who's still on this team. I think Nate maybe has one good run left in the chamber. Maybe he's keeping it for that state meet, hopefully. So all in all, it was a good tune-up, I think, for this for both squads. Chandler ran well as well on the girls' side. I think she finished second on VHS. So overall, I'm hoping that it was a good thing. It's always good. We've talked about it before. I think I was naive or ignorant to the fact of how important experience is in cross country. So getting the opportunity to run that course, get to see some of that competition that you will at state meet, hopefully it bodes well for them in the future.
I think definitely matters. Boys and girls golf team, both district champions as of this past week.
Yeah, really exciting for both of those squads. They've both played some really good golf, and I think we touched on it in a previous episode. at least on the boys' side, Wade Martin's group has historically got better as the year goes on. That's what you want to see. It's what every coach of every sport wants to see. But the proof's been in the pudding with him, and the boys were extremely strong, including Landon Howell, a 67 to be the individual low, the district champion individually. Congratulations to him. A really good number. I think Braxton Williams is 72. Overall, the boys running away with it. And the girls as well. A really good day out of Kenzie Kasanich stepping up and being individual low for this squad. So overall, 2 district championships for both squads. I think it bodes well for regionals. I think both left some strokes out there as well, especially on the boys' side. The course extremely fast, the greens extremely fast. So we'll see if they both can dial in a little bit better going into regionals.
All right. And then the only other one to mention then would be the bowling teams. We mentioned last week the boys not making it through to the state tournament, just coming in shy of qualification for the Baker tournament at districts. The girls did make it through, and they're bowling at states as we speak. It looks as though they are good to go. They're getting through into the afternoon Baker session. They finished in the top 16 in the morning in the 10-pin rounds. So once again, that girls bowling team into the tournament and has a chance to place at the state meet. Always impressive.
Yeah, spearheaded by Amelia O'Brien, who was the top individual in that opening round during the districts. She automatically got to qualify. The team followed up and helped got there as a unit. District runner-up effort there to South Lake in the district. And then, 15th was the last update. So they're at least in the show there in the afternoon round. That's all it takes. You got to get there first.
And Amelia will get to keep bowling in the individual tournament as well, regardless of where the girls' team does bow out of that tournament. Or, hey, maybe they take it all the way. We were in the state runner-up match last year, finished 3rd.
Never know.
So, hey, always possible. You get one of those good teams out of the way early coming into that 15 seed, and then, hey, path opens up for you. You never know. And you can find out the results from the bowling state meet and any other Buffalo sporting event on our website. Check out athletics.tvcs.org for rosters, results, ticketing information, and our live stream schedule as well. All the information on the Buffalo Athletics programs right at your fingertips. Be sure to check us out today at athletics.tvcs.org. All right, we're doing something a little bit fun today. We've got our Fall Athletes of the Year. Now, again, to be very clear, these are the Buffalo Roundup Players of the Year. This is strictly Cody and I. There were no coaches that had input on this, no outside media. There were no player votes, nothing like that. We're not in the locker rooms for the most part. You know, this is strictly based on the results, what we saw this year, who we were most impressed by. So
any complaints, Drew Schultz will take all of them. And any praises, Cody Hills will be your guy for that.
But no, we just wanted to highlight some athletes that we thought did an outstanding job. Obviously, we mentioned several of them throughout the season on these podcasts, but we don't really deep dive on most of them for the most part.
And it wasn't easy, right? We have multiple names even for some teams.
And that's the other thing. Some of these we had a really hard time narrowing it down. We will give some honorable mentions as well. And again, this is not to say that anyone who doesn't get mentioned or anyone who gets an honorable mention but didn't end up being the decision between us, it's not to say that they didn't have great seasons as well. We had a lot of teams have really good seasons, and that only happens when multiple people are pulling their weight and going above and beyond. But again, these were just our standouts from this year. So just wanted to give you all the parameters before we get into the list. But without further ado, here they are. We're going to go in alphabetical order, starting with bowling. So on the boys' side, we chose Braden Lightbourne.
Yeah, I think Braden from the start. Look, this was one of the returners from a year ago. That team finished 6-9 head-to-head overall last year. Ended up 10-6. We mentioned earlier, didn't quite get through to the district round. Finished 6th. Didn't quite get to the afternoon session, or finished 5th, excuse me. Didn't quite get to that afternoon session in that district tournament. But Braden, a consistent force throughout this team this year. One of the returners. A couple others you could maybe pick, but I thought overall, you know, in talking with head coach Joe Hornstein, Braden had a really solid season up front, so he got our nod for this one.
Yeah, and on the girls' side, Amelia O'Brien. And there's not a lot of explanation that needs to be given for this, but anchor all year.
Yep.
Really, and not just in the literal fifth in the lineup sense, but also in terms of being the only returner from the top 5 of that state third-place team last year, and then really took on the helm of leadership for that team. I mean, she was so consistent all year, made that team a district contender, is won the district tournament from the individual side. Was the best 10-pin bowler in the morning session. Again, she's going to keep bowling at state. Hard to look at anyone other than her for this award.
Yeah, and Coach Hornstein told me after being district runner-up and getting through as a team to the state tournament, he had said, I'm not sure how many of them believe. Maybe Amelia believed, though. She kept the faith. We keep the faith in her as the fall athlete of the year.
Yeah, awesome to see what she's done. Again, that team, we had not exactly high expectations. Again, this felt like it was going to be a real reset year, and Amelia O'Brien, I think, probably prevented it from being that. I mean, you can mention Brenya Lightborn, you can mention plenty of other bowlers on that team, the new girls who stepped in and helped them kind of not fall back as far as we expected, but I think everything kind of starts and ends with Amelia in terms of getting them to where they were this year.
Agree. Yep, 100%.
Moving on to cross country, we did already mention David Perbola in this podcast, but again, another one that's hard to look at anyone else. Almost every event that the cross country team ran in this year, he was the top finisher. He's their number one going into the state meet. We have the highest hopes for him, I think, in the postseason as far as putting up those winning times. So again, David Perbola is our nominee.
Yeah, and a real feel-good story too, right? Because his last year plus or so really been plagued by injury, and his dad, head coach JP Perbola, kind of told me after David won his first meet of his high school career in that Buffalo Invitational, he had said like David had kind of hated cross country, hated running, just because it had been such a real tumultuous journey for him the last 12 months or so, calendar months, just being injured, not quite being healthy. That first victory followed up setting the school record, the new school record, 16:31.5. We just talked about in the earlier segment him having the fastest time in program history at that state meet site. So all in all, David Perbola, I think been the clear number one. Don't sleep on Nate Burton in that state tourney. Like I mentioned, I think there's still one more good run in his shoes. But overall, yeah, David Perbola has just been so strong this year in assuming that number one role.
And then on the girls' side, Anderson Chandler. Again, we expect her to be a contender to make that state meet. Really impressed with what she's done this year.
Yeah, also someone who's overcome some ailments and has been that number one throughout much of this season, a consistent force. The girls' team, maybe as a whole, not as quite strong as that boys' side. We talked about Roberto Carmona Rivera. We've talked about Nate Burton, David Perbola on the boys' side, a little bit more depth there, some young guys as well running strong. The girls' side, not as deep as a team yet this year. There's a lot of youth there as well, but Anderson Chandler has been a consistent force at the top, several top 20 individual finishes for her on the year. Anderson Chandler on nod for the girls cross country fall athlete of the year.
All right. Football, this was a tough one. I mean, there was a real debate between, and I mean, there were several guys that we started with. We whittled it down to two.
Yep.
Have to shout out Jay Kennedy, who's on pace to break the passing touchdowns program record. Honestly, anytime you're having a season like that and doing it without an interception, by the way, you've got to be in consideration. But we really argued about this one, and we finally settled on Kevontae Corbin.
Yeah. Shout out to Jay Kennedy. 22 touchdowns, no interceptions. That 25 mark is the 25 single season touchdown mark set by Brandon Kennard. I think Jay's going to hunt that down, if not Friday night, maybe in the playoffs. But Kevontae Corbin has just been the Swiss Army knife for this football team, hasn't he? I mean, he's scored just about in every way. Passing touchdown, rushing touchdown, receiving touchdown, kick return touchdown, fumble recovery. Doesn't have the punt return, and has been close, been inside the 10-yard line, I think two or three times, and then does not have a pick six interception. But other than that, we're not chastising him by any means. He's done it all.
Go get him, Key.
Yeah, really, Key. Pick up your game. But what is he, 16, 17 total touchdowns this year? He's been so good. He's been such a good leader, too. He's not one of the named captains, right, coming over from Wildwood. Didn't get voted a captain early in the season. If there was a fifth captain, very easily could be. I mean, he has been such a good vocal leader for this football team. But I don't think it matters. I think his play has spoke for itself. Again, he's done everything you could ask for, whether it's been at the quarterback position, taking some direct snaps, running back, receiver, defensive back. He has been so good in every aspect. I'm glad we settled on Key Corbin. Tough debate. I think Cole Logan's had a really good year defensively as a linebacker. And one of the co-captains, Brett Widman, on that line has been really good. But Kevontae Corbin has been can't-miss football for this football team.
And he's scored in every single game, too. So just the consistency, the energy that he brings to both the offense and the defense and special teams, contributing in all three phases, we just decided it couldn't be anyone else but Key Corbin. So,
speaking of not being able to decide, you're going to notice on our notes here, Drew, I had two each for golf. I gave a tie to both the boys and girls.
It was really tough. and we went back and forth on both of these, but I'll go ahead and let you lay it out here.
Yeah, I'll take the heat if we couldn't settle on a tiebreaker. On the boys' side, Braxton Williams, sort of the undisputed number one coming into the season. He probably still is. I think if you need your best bet of 18 holes, who are you going to go with? I think Braxton Williams is a fair bet. But Landon Howell, a 67 at that boys golf district tournament, the individual low, the top medalist there. He has been really strong all throughout the year, but also, Rhett Kirkland, Aiden Scrocky, that whole unit has come on really strong. But I gave it a tie. I'll take it for this one. I think Braxton Williams and Landon Howell, I gave it to him. I couldn't decide between the two. Had Landon Howell not had such a good district tournament, I probably would have just said Braxton Williams and moved on. But Landon Howell, kudos to him for making it a discussion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, winning that individual district tournament and arguably should have been enough to just put him ahead. So,
sure.
I mean, this was another one where we truly couldn't decide, and we felt like the contributions from both were pretty much just on par with each other. So we are awarding the tie between Landon and Braxton on the boys golf side.
And since I gave a tie there, I was going to take I'll take the cop out on the girls side too, because it's been a really competitive all season long, going back 1 and 2. Kenzie Kasanich, who is the top district performer for this girls squad at the district tournament this week, and Katie Allen. Katie Allen has been such a good a leader for this team, a senior, been on this varsity squad 5-6 years now. She's been so strong and was probably, again, just like Braxton, was probably the undisputed number one coming into the year. Give a lot of credit to the middle schooler, Kenzie Kasanich, stepping up and playing her best golf, especially as this season has gone on. I believe it was 72 in the district tournament out of 7th grader. That's extremely impressive. So we're going to go ahead and give the tie there as well.
All right. Swimming, this on the girls' side at least, not a hard one. It's Lara Braganza. And to an extent, it was always going to be Lara Braganza. You're talking about a swimmer who I think at this point is indisputably the best swimmer in the history of the girls program. She owns 6 of the 9 possible individual records, and then is part of 2 relay team records. And then she picked up right where she's been all season long. I think there was one individual event that she didn't finish first in the regular season.
Yeah, it's been.
It's as dominant of a season as you can have in the pool.
That was my word, dominant. It's been a dominant stretch of swimming for Lara Braganza. We kind of teased it in the earlier segment, or I did, but boy, if you can hang your hat on hopefully one state championship, hopeful, right, and finally get this program's first state gold medal at the swim meet, you hope it's Lara, because the story has been good. The leader that she's been, it's been good. The swimming performance has been good. The steward that she is in the classroom, in the community. I mean, you talk about a well-rounded athlete. Very easy decision here to go for the girls, Lara Braganza. Not so much of an easy decision on the boys' side.
I think this was the hardest one for us, right?
Probably.
And it's not even that we had strong opinions one way or the other. It's just that there were a handful of guys that we felt like were the leaders of this team, that had similar results in the pool, that competed in the same way, even with each other,
right,
week in, week out. At every meet, they were contributors, and they were rallying the team, and they were winning the must-win events. They all did well at districts. They're all going to regionals, and it kind of came down to just those district results at the end. Erin Nicoxie, 2 individual district titles, 1 individual district title and part of 1 winning relay team that ended up being the tiebreaker, more or less.
Yeah, slight edge maybe there over Braden Collins, Ryan Faso. Honorable mention to Sebastian Price on the diving board. Erin Nicoxie, I think back to that first double duel to start the season. Was at Leesburg and Bellevue, if memory serves me right. He sort of came out right away and set the tone. A couple individual victories, winning on both relays as well. He's had some really good times and continued to chop him down all season long. Sort of set the tone early that he was going to be the one, helping. And of course, we didn't even get to mention Zion Lumpe. I mean, a strong year there. Lucas Braganza, strong year. Liam Lacassi. I mean, there's a lot of good swimmers throughout the year on this boys' side, but Erin Nicoxie got our nod late.
Yeah, and again, that was probably the hardest one for us to decide, just because it did feel as much like a team effort, that group at the top for the boys, those juniors and seniors who kind of led the way all year, both in and out of the pool. Really tough to decide between them, but Aaron just barely gets the nod. And again, shout out to him for a great district performance. We hope that he can continue through regionals and on to the state meet as well. And that brings us to our last sport, volleyball.
Yeah, I would say if you had up until maybe the district tournament, I had maybe picked a different athlete. I think I would have given the nod to Alexia Laws. Unfortunately, suffered an injury there late in that regular season. You know, and it's certainly not her fault by any stretch of the imagination. But I think you and I settled on the consistency. And I don't really say it was a career achievement award. I think because this year was so strong. But I think we had to go Viviana Toussaint Martinez. Offensively, defensively, up over 280 kills this year offensively. The outside hitter position was just extremely strong. Probably the one, at least 1A, if you will, on the opponent scouting report you had to account for every week when facing this, or every match against this Buffalo squad. Vivi, she was up there.
Yeah, and kind of what it came down to was, you know, when the Buffalo needed points, there were two people they could go to. It was Alexia and it was Vivi. And Vivi playing all the way through the year, kind of being the emotional heartbeat of that team as well, I think was a big deal. Again, this one was really, really close, really, really tight and a tough decision. But Viviana Toussaint Martinez, you know, outstanding senior year. And that's the other thing, is coming in as a captain and knowing what the Buffalo were up against in terms of the schedule, kind of keeping them level. Even though the results weren't what she wanted, what they wanted throughout the year, they wanted to make it to that regional final and even beyond that. But there were a lot of points where this team could have crumbled. They could have folded. And I think that, you know, Vivi being the leader of this team, being a captain of this team, part of the reason that they didn't is because of her consistency and what she was able to do for them off the court as well.
Yeah, and I think her desire to play defense a little bit more this year. Maybe a year and a half ago, you know, I might have said, you know, kind of a one-sided of the net in terms of the player that she is, very offensive focused, very offensive oriented. Came around and finished second on this team in blocks, only a couple, I think a pair of blocks behind Alexia Laws. So she sort of made her game more well-rounded.
And played some on the back line, too.
Yes, as well. So overall, just a really strong season for her and really helped make that Buffalo volleyball team, help get them to that regional semifinal.
All right, there it is. That's it. That's our fall athletes of the year. And we'll do this for all 3 seasons. Looking forward to seeing what winter sports have to bring. But again, we just wanted to highlight some of the individuals from this fall sports season because it's been awesome. I mean, all of our teams, it feels like, have been outstanding this fall. Maybe the best fall in VHS history, quite frankly, with the success that these teams have had.
Yeah, don't have a plaque, don't have a certificate, but you can just tell your friends that you were the Buffalo Roundup Fall Athlete of the Year. That's cool enough.
Send them the clip.
Yeah,
right?
Send them the clip.
We're on YouTube.
There you go.
So, but yeah, again, congratulations to all of our athletes, but to our fall athletes of the year. Really outstanding job by all of you guys. You guys have been a pleasure to watch, pleasure to follow, pleasure to cover, and all stand-up kids as well. Just absolutely leaders on and off the court in whatever your sport is. It's been an outstanding season, so congratulations. That'll do it for us for this week's Buffalo Roundup. We'll have another episode for you next week. Obviously, don't forget about VHS Buffalo Senior Night for football this Friday against Mount Dora, 7 p.m. kickoff, 6:30, I believe, is the start time for Senior Night ceremony. So be here. Plenty of kids will be in costume. Feel free to wear your Halloween costume out to the range. It'll be a little bit more fun that way.
Yeah, hopefully the Buffalo show up as a winning
winners,
football
yeah.
team. That'd be great. That'd be a good end of the season.
All right. That'll do it for us. For Cody Hills, I'm Drew Shaltry. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Until then, what do we tell them?
Go Buffalo.